All right, this one was great because it was the last Michael Jackson tour. And we ran some bus tours, and we went down to Detroit to see Michael Jackson's last show at Pontiac Silver Stadium in '84. I actually have a big poster of this, and it was a great show because Michael and his whole family members were into the tour and had great production for that show. And this one is a valuable ticket in my eyes because it was the last Michael Jackson tour.
Yeah, he really did a favor to his brothers.
Right.
He could have toured anywhere and selling out.
Yeah.
He said, all right, we'll go out as the Jacksons. So that was the victory tour. And it was funny, one thing that's more a local interest here, but when they played Buffalo, they didn't play Toronto, if you remember. And so they said, no, we're not coming to Canada. We're not playing. So we go down to Buffalo to see the show. Then they announced a Toronto date. Right. So what happened? This is highly unusual back in those days. Anyone who had a Toronto address or Mississauga or Oakville or Burlington could show an address on some ID that was their home address, and they had a ticket from Buffalo. They got a free ticket to the Toronto show. They gave everyone free tickets.
Wow, that's
now,
unusual.
They were back on the floor, but we had all these free tickets because a lot of people couldn't go a second time. But so it's nice, but you got to realize Pontiac Stadium, the Silverdome, which was just new then, had just been built. It holds like 85,000 people. So there was a lot of tickets out there, but it's probably still $150, $200 ticket.
All right, let's see. So this is Journey and Santana ticket at Kaminsky Park in Chicago. I was living a couple of months in Chicago working with the Cal Jam, Chicago Jam people, and we were doing the Chicago Jam with the Beach Boys and Rush there. So I got a free ticket to see this show at Kaminsky Park, and then 2 weeks later, we did the Chicago Jam there. So I don't know what it's worth, but
it's an interesting lineup with Journey and Santana. It's not two bands you see play together all the time.
Right.
Santana was a little more Latin rock, and Journey was just classic American rock, right? But it's a nice ticket. It's nice that it has two big bands on it. Makes it worth a little more. Again, it's got a condition issue with some marks on it, but it's probably a $50 ticket in that condition.
And several other bands played at that show, too. Now, this one, the Monkees, the original Monkees. And that was a rare one to see.
Were they all live then?
Yeah, they were all
Davy
live.
John's?
Because
that's
that
96.
ticket is Molson's Amphitheater.
Right.
In 96, it was the final reunion where they played in the Circle.
Oh, okay. So that's the last tour of the original four.
Of the
Davy
original
Jones
four,
died
right.
first, right?
Yeah.
And now there's only one alive, I think.
Yeah,
it's Peter
only
Tork,
one.
right?
So I don't know how much it's worth, but the Monkees was a rarity to see. And
it wouldn't be worth much. The Monkey stuff that's worth a lot is from the 60s when they first came out with the TV show.
Oh, yeah.
And then a few of the tours, but they're more famous for their toys and other things because they made so much
and the
merchandise.
bobbleheads,
all that stuff's worth a fortune. But tickets, it's probably a $20 ticket or something. Right. And it's too late. It's 30 years after the peak.
Now, my favorite band, the Moody Blues, I've seen them 100 times probably. But this is a really good printed ticket in Buffalo. And the Moody Blues played really, really well. Spiritual kind of music and message music, and they were always strong in Buffalo and Toronto. Right. And what do you think that ticket there is?
It's neat that it has Jerry Weintraub as the promoter because him and Bill Graham were two of the original big promoters.
Right.
And he had what's called Concerts West. But this one you kept in beautiful condition. So I'd say that's probably a $100 ticket like that. Moody Blues aren't quite as expensive as Stones and Beatles, but it's a nice-looking ticket. It's not a computer ticket, even though it may have been computer printed at the sides, but it's still it's an attractive ticket.
All right. And, of course, Moody Blues at Maple Leaf Gardens. That one would probably be worth more, 1978. What do you think that value of that ticket?
Actually, I like the other ticket a little better because the condition's better. But this would be the same price if it was in as good a condition as the last one. This one's a little lesser condition. So in good condition, it might be $125. In that condition, maybe $40, $50. Condition is a huge thing for tickets.
But also, if you have Maple Leaf Gardens, there's Jerry Weintraub, Concert West, Moody's, Buffalo Stadium. Different ticket. Probably not worth as much.
A little later, because they toured every year. They never stopped. In fact, when we're talking about Kingswood, they used to play Kingswood every year. So the 10 years Kingswood was there, they played 10 years. But, it's probably a $30, $40 ticket.
What a lot of people don't know about the Moody Blues is when they toured, they're the only band, when they toured forever, they had like a union pension plan. What does that mean? That means every tour and city they played, they put a certain amount of money away for their pension to stop the tax man from getting them in different countries and stuff. And they're the only bands I know that did that. And that's why they have a huge pension plan, because they were smart in the early days to take a portion of their ticket sales and put it into their retirement fund, even though they never retired.
Yes,
they played forever.
Still touring.
All right. Okay, best band ever, Pink Floyd. Now, Pink Floyd shows are rare. Of the original Pink Floyd, because they broke up in stupid fights. But this is Pink Floyd at Exhibition Stadium in '94, and they did 3 shows there, filled the stadium up with, I guess, 60,000, 70,000 every night, and they did 3 shows.
Right.
And this was the, I think, Division Bell tour. And even though you can see it's early Ticketmaster design, I don't know what it's worth, but Pink Floyd...
It's a full ticket. It's from the later days. So I don't know. Roger Waters wasn't there.
No,
anymore.
He wasn't at that one. That was just after he left. But it was all the other original band.
But that still hurts a bit, right?
Yes.
People want stuff from the day. So it's, in nice condition, it's probably $75, probably $30 in that condition. The more of a local concerts, the one that's more collectible is the 1975 from Ivor Wynne Stadium in Hamilton.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a $400 or $500 ticket.
Right.
But the famous thing, of course, about that, the ticket, you'll just see Ivor Wynne. A lot of times it was ripped where you can't read Pink Floyd. So you have to check with the date. Yeah. And I think it was like July 5th or something like that.
Let's go
July
see some
14th.
other Pink Floyd tickets out here. I think we got a couple of... There's Pink Floyd. Oh, this one.
The Olympic Stadium. That's the Pigs tour, right?
Oh, yeah. And I have the poster. I actually stole the poster off a subway wall because they didn't make show posters back in those days. But this show at Olympic Stadium was the best concert that you would ever see because it was such a party atmosphere. And this was the original Pink Floyd. They had the big pigs and the big screens and the circle stuff. But what was good about Montreal was there was probably 20,000 French guys partying, 20,000 American partying, and 20,000 Ontarian partying. And you had quite a mix of batch of Americans and Quebecers speaking French and Canadians from Ontario. And it was just a huge mega party, and everyone was happy. You were happy with the French and the Americans. They were happy. They were all just happy to be at the Olympic Stadium. And Olympic Stadium was the perfect stadium for quad. If you know the size of the stadium, the big circle. So when they did their quad sound, it was awesome. And when the big pig came over the stadium, the whole crowd went nuts. And that's the feature of the poster. And that poster's still famous because in Pink Floyd's book, they show that poster in the program.
And they didn't play Toronto, so this is the closest you got.
Yeah, you had to drive to Montreal to see that show.
And they're huge in Quebec, obviously.
Early days of Pink Floyd, you can tell the $5.50 ticket. This was one of my first early concert shows that I realized what quad was. And a lot of people don't understand quad because only 2 bands really played at Emerson, Lake and Palmer once in a while, but Pink Floyd was always famous for quad. And what quad means is they stuck speakers up in the top gardens and at the back of the gardens and up front so they could make their music go round and round. And that's what made Pink Floyd famous. Their videos were awesome and their quad sound. And this was, the garden shows are the better shows that Pink Floyd ever did because you were in a small venue listening to quad for the first time.
And, of course, The Who took on with Quadrophenia.
Yes.
They started the quad. But that's a very expensive ticket. That's probably a $300-$400 ticket because that is the early days.
Yep.
And it's a smaller venue. It's not Olympic Stadium with 60,000. There's 15,000.
And when you have the word Maple Leaf Gardens on there, it does sell more because a lot of people in the Golden Horseshoe area like collecting Maple Leaf Garden tickets.
It's one of the most famous venues in North America, along with Madison Square Gardens.
Yeah.
Dodger Stadium, if you want a stadium. There's these iconic Yankee Stadium, but definitely Maple Leaf Gardens is in the top 10 of venues in North America.
And I even think this was a 1960. So this one is Cops Coliseum. No, this is the Coliseum Clock. This is the Wall Tour, okay? Pink Floyd did the Wall Tour, but they only did London, L.A., and New York. And they were the only 3 cities. Later they did one in Berlin, but the original band built the whole wall across the stadium. And as they built it, they closed it up. So you could only go to 3 venues.
Coliseum, it says.
Yeah, the Coliseum in New York.
There's one there. Not the Richfield Coliseum in Cleveland. Okay. I don't know that one. We could look it up.
No, it was the Coliseum in New Jersey.
Oh, is it? Okay. I'm not familiar with that particular venue.
Yeah.
But
and February 24th, 1980.
Yeah, no, it's a cool.
It was they only did 3 shows: L.A., New York, and London.
Yeah, it's not in great shape,
Yeah.
but in that condition, probably worth $20. It's not worth a lot, but it'd be worth more if you had a good one. That's a nice one.
Now this one is Nebworth. Now a lot of people don't know Nebworth Park. It's in England. It's their Woodstock venue, and what I mean by their Woodstock venue is a lord owned the grounds. And in England, if you're a lord, you can do what you want. And so this lord decided, I'm going to make a Woodstock venue and hold 10 or 20 mega concerts. And this Pink Floyd concert was a week after Pink Floyd played in Hamilton. And they came back to end their world tour at Nebworth Park, and they had Steve Miller, Captain Beefheart, and also the Mighty Python Band was there playing things. There was 100,000 people there. And an outdoor venue with Pink Floyd at an open field in quad. They're the best parties ever you're going to see of a Pink Floyd there. And it was a happy place, too. So
right. That's an expensive ticket. It's probably $500 for that ticket.
Yeah. Okay, and then Queen. Okay, 1977, the original Queen, which that one... You remember it because you remember Freddie Mercury. If you ever seen Freddie Mercury play, he was just a show guy. All the music, the fancy clothes, the movements and stuff. So I think this ticket is worth something, but Queen with Freddie Mercury was a big difference. I mean, I've seen the other Queen shows with, Roger and the other guys playing with Queen, but...
Adam Lambert.
Yeah, Adam Lambert. But the original Queen, you couldn't do a stage.
Was probably worth $50. Until the movie came out.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's $300 because that movie made Queen way bigger than they ever were before.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Granted, they don't have Freddie Mercury anymore, but everyone wanted the stuff from the early days of Freddie Mercury. So everything from the early days of Queen just exploded in value when the movie came out because they got an extra 500 million fans they never had before that didn't even know Queen and
existed.
That movie really put them on the map again, and as a result, the vintage collectibles went crazy. Like a current Queen ticket is worth not $10 or something,
right.
But everyone wants an original Queen because they got to have Freddie Mercury involved, right?
Okay, so this one was at Mohawk College, and it was a weird ticket because it had Rare Earth play and also Max Webster. You don't see many Max Webster shows, and this was Mohawk College students running it. And Rare Earth, they hardly played in this area. They just kind of hung out.
Max Webster, of course, was a local band from Toronto, Kim Mitchell, and that was he was either toured as Kim Mitchell or as Max Webster, so that was sort of a favor to him. Yeah. Rare Earth would have been a bigger band at the time.
And the reason I like this ticket and a few other tickets is they're unusual. You won't see this type of Students Association printing out like a Stag ticket in '74. All right. Now we get into the Rolling Stones. So they're worth a lot. This one, though, is England in the Rolling Stones.
76.
Yeah. I don't know how much that one is worth.
Well, the fact that it's got the tongue and lips on it, that makes it worth more because that's their iconic logo, right? So people like that. It's in relatively good shape, a couple of spots, but, it's probably, if it was 60s, it'd be worth even more, but even 76, that's probably $200-300. But if you go back to the 60s and find some of their stuff, it's worth even more because it's earlier and they were playing less.
I have some, when we go to the other Rolling Stone tickets, should be showing up there. Okay, that was Harvey and Corky at Rich Stadium. That was a big show.
July 4th. That was the Americans went crazy that day.
Yeah, because it was the American holiday, and when they went there. And actually, this show I worked security at for the Rolling Stones because I knew the guys from Cal Jam. and there was a national group doing security for the Stones because the Stones was a wild party band, and so they needed good security. And I'd worked with some of these guys at Rich Stadium that worked security for me at Canada Jam and Heatwave, which was 100,000. So I got invited to bring a crew of 40 people down to do security. I did the parking lot and getting all the people in, and it was a great, great show. And the fact it was a great show because I had a security pass, I could go beside the stage and watch the show. After I got everyone in from the parking lot, which was like 80,000 people. It was crazy lining them up. And they were there at 5 in the morning in tens of thousands to get in there, even though the show didn't start till 2 in the afternoon. But it was good because I got everybody in with my team, and then I was able to enjoy the last half of the show standing beside the stage at Rich Stadium. So
I went to that show, and we were in Winnebago.
Oh, yeah.
And so what happened is we have the radio on as we're driving down to Buffalo and going across the Peace Bridge. And they said, do not bring drugs. They're checking everyone at the border. Whatever you do, don't bring drugs. Now we're all like, where are we going to hide this stuff? Whatever. And so we get to the border, and we still had pot, just pot, nothing, no hard drugs, but whatever. Back then, pot was considered very bad, right? So anyways, we get to the border, and one of the border, they go pull to the side, Winnebago, they see a bunch of young guys. They know there's something there. And so the customs officer came on, he goes, it's your lucky day. And I go, why is that? And he goes, because these dogs have smelled so much pot, they've lost their sense of smell. He said, get going, enjoy the show. So we got through with our pot. We were all good, but they had dogs that day, and they busted a lot of people early. Now, they didn't arrest them. They just turned them around. You're going back to Canada.
Well, I lost a few Canadian security guards that I invited down to work with me.
Get across.
And they got to the border, and they looked at their record. Oh, no, you smoke too much. You can't come to the show. Well, I'm working there. No, where's your visa to work there? Because we were kind of working underground hippie days of rock and roll,
That ticket in nice shape is probably about $100. This one has some marks on it, but it's a very collectible. And of course, it was crazy because July 4th and
American
back then
holiday.
You just had still a lot of the Vietnam vets were there and stuff. It was crazy in there. It was a really good show.
That's an early Rolling Stones show, and I guess it's a little bit out of focus.
That's 75. They played 2 dates.
Yeah.
17th and 18th, I think. There's another Stones.
Yeah, that's in Germany or Holland.
Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. There'd be lots of smoking there. It was probably illegal even back then. But that's 70. That might predate legalization in Amsterdam. But that's pretty collectible. That's an early ticket, and it's got the stamp on it. I guess that's to make sure it's authentic or something.
Something like that.
It's very cool. That's worth several $100s.
Okay, so now we get to Santana.
Again, we're at the Concert Bowl.
Yeah, and concert bowls were rare at Maple Leaf Gardens, but there was no Kingswood and there was no other venues to do. And so CPI got the shit together and said, let's do half stadium concerts. Right. And this was the heyday of Santana.
And typically, it's probably a little bit early, right? And their early one, they weren't sure how good a draw they were. So they do a concert bowl, and they say, wow, these guys could sell out the whole thing. We should have done the full venue. Because Santana did play many full venues.
Yes, he did it.
After.
All right. So let's. Hey, Glenn.
Wolf, how you doing, buddy?
Good. I brought you a whole bunch of more rock and roll stuff to show you. And as I told you before, when you have over 10,000 rock and roll items, this is the place, Glory Day Collectibles, that you bring your stuff to find out what it's worth, whether it's passes, tickets, T-shirts, programs, posters, and other rock and roll memorabilia. Glenn's group, they analyze it. They tell you whether it's a real autograph, a fake autograph, a good poster, a good program, or whether they're copies.
If I'll get lucky, I'll find a joint in this pocket. No, nothing. Too bad. It's always good. You never know when you find drugs from one of the roadies.